webinar is all about knowing how to craft your SOPs. And I'll start sharing my screen so that I can take you through the contents. Okay. So today's workshop is basically about knowing how to write your SOP. I'll introduce you to what is an SOP first, and then we will talk about some key elements of an ideal SOP. Then we will talk about, some of the examples from our co-founders who have got admits into MIT and Purdue. And then I'll be talking about a few do's and don'ts of what you should and what you should not include in your SOPs. And then we will quickly recap everything that we've learned, and I'll mention a few key takeaways. So I'll also talk about at the end how we can help you build your SOPs and build your applications. So stay with us till the end. And if at any point during the webinar you feel that you have questions, we're muting you, so you can post your questions in chat and we'll do our best to answer them. And we'll also be posting a recording of this webinar on our YouTube channel. So, you can have a look at it later on also. Just follow whatever is being said in the webinar, and don't worry about it, because you'll be able to look at it later on our YouTube channel. Okay. So if today is your first webinar from Videsh, I'd like to give you a introduction about our team and our mission. Okay. So Videsh was basically founded by three co-founders, Dr. Raj, Dr. Rajat, and Dr. Sridath. And these are award-winning scientists and researchers from IIT Madras, MIT, and Purdue in the US. So while they were pursuing their PhD in the US, they realized that there is no real mentorship that is given to students who are passionate about applying to graduate schools for either master's or PhD programs. And even, they faced it themselves, like when they were in the process of applying back in 2017 and 2018. That was the time when there was no professional mentorship available, and all support they had was from their seniors, and they had to reach out to their seniors for feedback. So that is the kind of vision and mission of Team Videsh, and that is why they founded Videsh, with a sole aim of helping students and professionals like yourselves to achieve your dream universities, and basically to provide professional mentorship to students. Okay. So in this overall journey, today's SOP crafting is a small part of that journey, and we want to enlighten you on a few concepts on what our co-founders did to get admits from top universities. Okay. So I'll be circulating a form with you. We'll be posting the link in the chat. It's a Google form, and it basically has questions like, if you are familiar with SOP, have you started writing your SOP, and if you're applying for masters or your PhDs. So we are posting the link in the chat, and we'll be, referring to that form later in the webinar. So if you can please fill up the, form, and then, during the course of my slides, it's a small form. It will take about 2 minutes to fill. So if you could just fill it up, we will, it will help us to know what kind of, crowd we are having, and, it will generally overall help the flow of the webinar. Okay. So, this is our aim. So our Team Videsh has only one goal: to help you reach your dream university. Okay. And then, what we are doing as a team. So we are very creative and modern in our approach, and we don't beat around the bush. We are very direct, we are very effective, and, and we aim to add tangible value to students' life. So, we only have one aim in mind, that you reach your dream university, and we want to help the students achieve that aim. Okay. So these are the three simple rules that we follow and will live by. And then why this workshop? So why we are conducting this workshop is because it's not just how to write an SOP, but it's, overall, we want to provide a guide on how to storytell, how to tell your own story. Okay. It's not just, useful when you're writing SOPs for graduate schools. Even if you're applying to jobs, and even if you get selected for interviews, or you speak with, interviewers, what they ask about you is the first thing about about yourself. Okay, so tell me about yourself is the first question that is asked in interviews as well. So in addition to applications for your graduate studies, storytelling helps you to basically define who you are as a person, and it basically teaches you how to project yourself in such a way that you're upselling yourself. Okay, so it can happen during your storytelling that you may appear less or little confident, and that is something that we don't want. Okay, so that is why we are conducting this workshop with the sole aim of teaching you how to tell a story, because we feel that in schools and even in our middle school, high school, even in grad school, undergrad schools, we are not taught how to tell a story. And we think that is the most important skill that every individual should possess, and that is how to how to define themselves and how to basically project themselves in a very good way. Okay, so we want to package all our learnings into this workshop and teach this skill onto all the participants of this webinar. All right, so let's talk about today's agenda. Today we will be talking about what is an SOP, the 4 key elements of an SOP. So basically, SOP is a 1200 to 1400 word essay, and it might seem a little bit overwhelming that what should I include in such a short span of words. So because it's your whole life you're talking about, right? It's who you are, it's what you've done up till now and what your aspirations are. So it's like a big story, but then we have to be very to the point, we have to be concise. So we've broken down the SOP into 4 elements, and then we'll be analyzing the SOPs of Dr. Raj, Dr. Rajat, and Dr. Sridat. So I'll be taking you through their statement of purposes also that got them admits into MIT and Purdue. And then I'll be talking about how to begin writing your SOP, and what are the different ways in which your statement of purpose can be written. There's no fixed way, but then you can go about telling your story in different ways, and then some do's and don'ts, and then at the end we'll be talking about how we can help you to perfect your applications and how we can help you to build your story, right? So let's get started. What is a statement of purpose? So basically, statement of purpose is an essay which a student writes to the admission committee, and the purpose of the SOP is to convince the admissions committee that you are the right fit for the university. Okay, and believe me, an SOP can be a document that can get you into top universities, but even if you have a very, very good profile, it can also help you not get into those top universities, even if you have a stellar profile. So really, an SOP can make or break your application, and that is why it is very, very crucial that you present your profile in your SOP in such a way that it makes a positive impact on the admissions committee. Okay, so it basically determines your passion, your hard work, your future ambitions, basically everything you've done up till now, and it's like a short version of your story up till now. Okay, and then I understand that it's just a 1400 to 1200 word essay, but then if written correctly, if written very well, it can help overcome some of the negative points also that you have in your application. Okay, so for example, if you don't have like a very, very good GPA, or if you don't have like great GRE scores, an SOP, a strong SOP can help you overcome that. Okay, because there are things in an SOP that can be developed, that can be built. Okay, so I'll take you through those things one by one, but I just want to emphasize on the point that an SOP is a very, very important document. Okay, so basically, what is the importance of SOP in an application? It is the single most document that does not have a particular format in which it should be written, but then still it tells your story, it showcases your strength, and it converts your weaknesses into strengths. So I'll stress upon the third point in a bit detail, because it happens that most of us think that we have a lot of weaknesses in our profile. Weakness can be anything. It can be like a gap year, it can be too much work experience and then wanting to step back into the academia, or it can be complete switch of fields, like for example, you're from mechanical engineering and you want to switch to computer science. So it's not, the three of them that I mentioned right now are not weaknesses, but it's something that happened in your life. And a good storyteller is somebody who is converting these things that happened in his or her life into a very positive way. Okay, So how can you do that? You can do that by presenting it in such a way that by proving and by telling in your story of how positively impacted you were during that situation, and how that has helped you in making your profile stronger. Okay, so basically, SOP is the only document where you can be a storyteller. The rest of the documents are your resume. Now, a resume is something that is a bullet pointed version, a very short version of your achievements. You can't really write an essay. You can't really tell your own story. Okay, and then it's important to sell your story also. So it's important to sell yourself, and don't sell yourself short. Okay, because whenever students write SOPs, it is very important. We always tell the students to highlight their achievements, and highlight whatever strengths that they have. Okay, even if there are some things that are happened in your life that are not really your strengths, but then present it in such a way that it is a very positive thing. Okay, so that is the beauty of an SOP. And even if it may sound and seem like a 1400 or 1500 word essay, it's basically very important to start writing your statement of purpose from now itself. Okay, so considering you'll be applying for your graduate studies next year, it's very important that you start working on your statement of purpose from now itself. So it may seem like a two-page essay, but it's not really a two-page essay. You have to build a lot of things that are not existent up until now in your profile, and that's why it's very important to present your story and to develop and to work on your SOP from now itself. Okay, so basically, like I said, on the left is your actual profile, and the dark spots that you can see on this banana are basically your weaknesses and something you don't want to highlight. Okay, and then how you are likely selling it. So this is just like a visual representation of how likely you are selling your profile, right? So we are mostly, underselling our profile. Most of the students who are enrolled with us are underselling their profile, even if it's not it doesn't really have to be that way, right? We can present the weaknesses in our profile in such a way that you can upsell your profile, and you should upsell your profile. Okay, so it's very important for you to be very confident and develop a story in such a way that you're positively impacting your SOP. Okay, that's why I'm saying that start working on your statement of purpose from now itself. Okay, I'll just go to this form where some of the students have filled the form. Now, we have a mixture of students and working professionals, and then we have students from a variety of fields. And yeah, I mean, 50% of students are pursuing masters, and the rest of the students have not yet decided, and the other 50% are pursuing their PhDs. Okay, and then most of you know what a statement of purpose is, but there's still a 33% who don't know what a statement of purpose is. So yes, I just explained what is a statement of purpose, and then have you started writing an SOP yet? So majority here is somewhere we need to work upon, and here is where your involvement in starting to write an SOP from now itself is crucial. Okay, and this question is something that I want to stress upon. Like, you haven't started to write your SOP yet, please do so from now. Okay, because majority of the participants in this webinar have not started to write their statement of purpose. And if you've not started doing that, please after this webinar, at least start thinking about what was said in today's webinar and what you are going to do about it. Okay, so writing an SOP, starting to write an SOP is very, very important, even if we are at the fag end of May, and we'll be beginning with in June. Okay, so how to tell a good story. Okay, so there's not really any need to follow a chronological order. Okay, so you don't need to go sequence wise, like I did this in my 10th standard, I did this in my 12th standard, and then I did this in my first year, in my second year. So it's not important for you to be chronological. It's fine if something that you did in your third year is coming first, and something that you did in your first year is coming last, or whatever. it's just important that your story is coherent, it's well connected, and it is very, very impressive, and it says the same thing throughout. Okay, so if you're thinking about following a chronological order, it's not really necessary. Okay, and then be very, very confident in every single thing you write. Okay, so by this, what do I mean? Even if you have a gap year, just don't mention in your SOP that I have had gap year, but then I didn't want to take it, but then I had to take a gap year. So that really makes you seem like you were made to take this gap year and you were not confident about it. But then present it in such a way that I took this gap year, and here are a few things that I learned during this 1 year, and this 1 year was very important for me in choosing my path and developing my vision. Okay, so this is just an example of how you can be very confident in every single thing you write, and this confidence is sensed by the admissions committee. Okay, so even if it may seem like plain simple English that you're writing your SOP in, but then your confidence speaks from your SOP. Okay, so it's very, very important for you to not mention anything that makes you seem less confident, and then convey your passion. Okay, and SOP is a story with an emotion. Okay, there are a lot of emotions attached to it, because come on, it's your story. Okay, it's about who you are, it's what you've gone through, and every single thing, every single hardship that you faced to achieve what you have achieved till now, and all of your strengths, you have an emotion attached to it. Okay, so keep that emotion alive. And an SOP is nothing like a resume. Okay, so a resume does not have any emotions attached to it. It's just information, it's just facts, it's just piece of information and facts. Okay, so make sure that your emotion and your passion is conveyed in the statement of purpose, right? So, what are some of the strengths that you can mention in your statement of purpose? The first thing is your grades. Okay, so I understand that not all of us have great GPAs and very strong GPAs, and not everybody is a topper in their own department. Okay, but then if you have really good grades, it's important to highlight those grades. Okay, because that is something that should be confidently put in your SOP. And then publications. Okay, now this is a point where I would like to stress upon a little bit, that even if you don't have publications at this point in your profile, publication section can be developed. Okay, I'll come to that part at the end, where I'll be talking about our long-term mentorship program, where we can help you develop your own publication. So this is the point that can be developed. And then the third point is internship. Now, whatever internships you've done, and in whichever field you've worked upon, you should make sure to positively write about it. Okay, in your statement of purpose. And if I understand, some of you are working professionals also in this webinar, and it's important that even if you have more years of experience, and you're still thinking about applying for PhDs or for your masters to graduate schools in next year, you may think that, okay, I've been away from academia for so long, and you might seem a little bit hesitant about getting admits from good universities. But believe me or no, your work experience can really be a big highlight, and that can really help you get admitted. Okay, so we had this one student who had like 15 years of work experience in IT industry, and she wanted to apply for a masters after having 15 years of experience in IT. And then she was also very skeptical about wanting to very skeptical about whether or not she will get into a good university or no, because of being away from academia for so long. But then her SOP was drafted in such a way that this work experience was turned into a very positive thing. And we mentioned everything that she learned throughout her work experience, and how her work experience will contribute to the university. Okay, so that really made a big impact, and she ended up getting an admit from a very good university. And then if you have any startup experience that you've done, probably in your undergrad, or if you have any teaching experience, if you have any patents in your name, so everything and anything that can um, that you want to include can be put in an SOP. But just remember, one thing, that what you've done in your middle school or your high school or in your school basically does not matter that much. Okay, so your any kind of exams or any qualifications that you might have had during your 10th or 12th, those things don't really matter, and extracurriculars up till that time don't really make a difference. So make sure you refrain from writing anything that happened in your school days. Okay, so refrain from doing that. As a rule of thumb, I would say that anything and everything that you've achieved after completing your 12th grade is valid. And the points that I mentioned just now in my previous slide, so these points are very, very important. So if you don't have any of these points can be developed. Okay, especially the publication section in your SOP can be developed, right? Now we are talking about weaknesses. Okay, a few examples of weaknesses that most of the students think they have is when they're cross applying. So it happens that you have done your undergrad in a particular topic, and you have had a different major, and you're applying to graduate schools in a completely different major. But then you have to mention that transition very, very effectively, and you have to tell such a good story that the admissions committee would want to believe that you actually want to transition to that particular field. Okay, and then that also has to be backed by some credentials. Okay, so some facts and so it has to have credibility also, right? So if you're transitioning to computer science from, let's say, physics, or from mechanical engineering, you need to have some work done in that particular field. So you need to show some work that you've done in the CS field. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. This is the transition that I'm talking about, that you need to show if you are cross applying. And then time gap in your profile. Okay, so the time gap may be like you had a gap year, or probably you've had a year where you were not really working, or you've completed your undergrad and you have had a gap year of 1 or 2 years before you started to work, and you don't know what I should include in those particular years, or maybe I should just skip those years. But then skipping the years is never really a good way in your SOP, because you can really write something like, this particular year or these 2 years helped me to realize where my passion lies, and these are the particular things that I worked upon in my gap years, and that this is how I want to proceed forward. Okay, so you have to make sure that everything is connected by one or the other point, and that is how the flow of your SOP should be. Okay, the flow should be very, very structured. And then, like I said, the example that I just gave, if somebody is in the industry for too long, and if they want to transition to academia by applying for masters or PhD, then that is also very, very crucial and important to present that as a positive thing. So what are some of the key points while writing your statement of purpose? You have to show, you just don't have to write. It has to be backed by your letter of recommendation. It has to be backed by your resume. Okay, so whatever story you're writing around a particular point, it has to be backed by your statement of by your resume and your letter of recommendation. Okay, so if there's any internship that you've pursued, and if some manager is giving you a letter of recommendation for that particular internship, then make sure that whatever you're writing in your SOP, the same thing is being mentioned in the letter of recommendation by your manager. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when I say that show and don't just write. And then, like I said, your school days don't matter so much, so don't really bother too much about thinking and racking your brains on what you did not and what you did in school. Okay, because that doesn't really matter. You were very young back then, and that those points don't really matter. Okay, and then it's very important to not include any political views, and mention any famous scientists who inspire you. Okay, so the admissions committee don't really want to know who your inspiration is, or what or your political views are. Okay, just remember to stay to the point while writing your statement of purpose, right? So now we are coming to the 4 key elements of an ideal statement of purpose. Now, what are the key elements of an ideal statement of purpose? The first is the thread, the second is the hook, the third is the supporting cast, and fourth is casting the net. Okay, so I'll take you through these points one by one. And the first part of your SOP is the thread. Okay, so the thread basically is a unifying vision, that binds your SOP together, right? So these are a few snapshots of Dr. Raj's SOP. And he had this vision of creating an impact through fluid mechanics, and these are the snapshots of his SOP that he wrote when applying to MIT. Okay, so he had a very clear vision in his mind that he wanted to create an impact through the field of fluid mechanics. So okay, so what he wrote was this, that this is his first paragraph, and this is something that he wrote. Okay, I'm keen to create such an impact by pursuing a master's followed by PhD in the field of fluid mechanics. Okay, so this is something that he maintains throughout his statement of purpose, and this is basically the thread of your SOP. Okay, so the second point is the hook. What is the hook? The hook is basically your biggest strength. Okay, so every conference, every journal publication is your strength, and that is something that you should mention. Even if it is a prestigious internship or fellowship, anything, it immediately catches the attention of the admissions committee, and it immediately elevates your profile above the rest of your peers. Okay, so like I said, this is Dr. Raj's again, the snapshot of his SOP. And here he mentions is his hook, that he presented a paper in the European Fluid Mechanics Conference in Spain. So you can see how this ties his vision to his strengths, that he wants to create an impact in the field of fluid mechanics, in which he presented his paper in. Okay, and then also he explains it later on in the next paragraph, that he also is preparing a paper, he's writing a paper, and he plans to submit it by the end of December to the Journal of Fluid Mechanics. So you can see how coherent everything in his SOP sounds, and there's like a neat and clean flow. Okay, now, even if his paper was not accepted or submitted yet to this Journal of Fluid Mechanics, he mentions in his hook that he is writing it and he plans to submit it. Now, this was again backed by his letter of recommendation that this professor wrote. Okay, so it's not just that admissions committee will believe on everything and anything you write. Okay, it has to be backed by proper credentials. It has to be backed by a letter of recommendation also, right? The third point is the supporting cast. Okay, so the supporting cast is something that is not directly related to the field you're applying to, but then again it is something that you're very proud of, and it will again add strength to your statement of purpose. Okay, for example, Dr. Raj did an internship in ITC on solar panels, and though this topic was not really related to the field of fluid mechanics, it was a very prestigious internship that selected a few students amongst many of hundreds of students. So it was a very prestigious thing, and he wanted to mention it in his statement of purpose, but then he did it by using the sandwich technique. So he mentions first in his statement of purpose about his vision, about his hook, and then he mentions the supporting cast, and then at the end he also mentions that how MIT will help him achieve his vision. Okay, so he mentions it somewhere in between, though it is not directly related to the field of fluid mechanics. He still makes sure to mention it. Okay, so this is something you should do. And then the last point is casting the net. Okay, so in so these are the last two paragraphs that will make your pitch to the university. Okay, so it will basically determine if or not you're a good fit for the university, and if or not the university is a good fit for you. Okay, so this is where the students make maximum mistake. Okay, so this is where students end up writing paragraphs and paragraphs on how the university will benefit them, and how amazing the research work is being carried on in the university, and how they will get benefited. But then you also have to mention of what benefits you will provide to the university, and how you plan to give something to the university. Okay, so I'll talk about this, how you can do that. Okay, so this you can mention by writing about research group in that particular university. Okay, so this is not just any a name that we are taking, and this has to be backed by thorough research. So if you're writing this particular paragraph, make sure that you visit their website, visit the university's website, research on the professors, and make sure you know the work that they're doing, and then mention the professor name and the work that they're doing in your paragraph. Okay, so it's something that requires a lot of patience, and something that is you should spend a lot of time on. That is why I'm saying that you should start working on your statement of purpose from now itself. Okay, because these things take time. Researching on the university takes time, researching on the professor takes time, and that is something that you should devote the time to, and that is something that will not be possible at the very fag end of the year. Okay, so start your research on whichever universities and whichever fields of study you want to apply to, and then start researching on the professors and the work that they're doing also. Okay, so this is the part where we talk about research, and the last part is where you tell the university that you would want to work in this particular field, in this particular research lab with this professor, and then this university will be very beneficial for you, and it will help you achieve your dreams. Okay, so at the end also you have to mention the vision, the thread of your SOP. Okay, so these four components are something that will bind your entire statement of purpose together. Now I know what you all might be thinking, that this is for a particular university. Do we have to change the SOP for different universities? The answer is yes. And then you have to change it in such a way that you have to present it differently. The same thing, you have to present a different story. So like if Dr. Raj was applying to the field of computer science, he would have talked about how all these internships and all these papers have helped him gain knowledge on the field of computer science, and how his vision would have been different. Okay, so that is the art of storytelling, and you just need to present the same story in a different way. But definitely the research group, this part will differ in from university to university. So if you're applying to 10 universities, look at the amount of research you need to do, and look at the amount of time you will need to do the kind of research, okay, that I'm talking about. So telling different story, the same facts yet different story to different universities will actually get you good admits from universities, right? So this is basically the summary and takeaway of whatever I've been trying to explain till now. The thread, the hook, the supporting cast, and the pitch will make a very, very strong statement of purpose. Now we'll be moving on to analyze the statement of purpose of our three co-founders, Dr. Raj, Dr. Rajat, and Dr. Sridhar. I'll take you through their statement of purposes one by one. All right. So I just showed you, a few snippets of Dr. Raj's statement of purpose, and basically, this is something that I showed you, and this is something where he mentions his thread, okay, that he wants to create an impact in the field of fluid mechanics. So the first thing you should know is the length of the statement of purpose. So it is a 2-page long SOP, and he mentions in the first paragraph his vision, his thread, and then he mentions that which professor helped him to in this to help him transition and have a vision in this particular field. Now he also made sure that this particular professor had given him a very good letter of recommendation. So like I said, everything has to be backed by one another, so your documents need to be supported by one another. Okay, so this I showed you this snapshot also, where he has presented his paper in the European Fluid Mechanics Conference in Spain, and this is a part of his hook. Now you can see that he mentions his hook in the third paragraph itself. Okay, so this is something that he did in his third year, and that's why I said it's important to not be in chronological order, but if it's giving you a good story, it's important to switch chronological orders here and there. Okay, and then he here in the fourth paragraph he mentions how he plans to submit a paper to the Journal of Fluid Mechanics. Now this is a very prestigious journal. Okay, to the experts of this particular field. And then this is again back in his letter of recommendation. Okay. And then he talks about his research work where he got insights on why he should apply to MIT. And then, he talks about in his second page, he talks about the internship that I just showed you a snippet about. He talks about his internship at ITC. And then again, these are the last two paragraphs that I showed you, where he explains which research group he would like to join and what basically which research has inspired him. And so he talks about the names of the professors and about the work that is being done in MIT in this particular research lab. Okay. So he very well, in his last paragraph, he throws the net. So he basically pitches himself on how his vision will help him get an admit from MIT, and also it will benefit the university in ways more than one. Okay. So this is I would say one way of writing your statement of purpose. This is how you should go about it. Okay. So yeah, we just analyzed Dr. Raj's SOP, and he even shares with us a lot of times that he got into MIT because of his SOP, because he was not exactly a topper of his department at IIT Madras, and an SOP is something that really helped him, and that really showcased his vision to the admissions committee, and he strongly believes that his SOP has gotten him into MIT. So that is why it is very, very important to spend a good amount of time on your statement of purpose. Okay. So now we are going to look at Dr. Rajat's statement of purpose. Now he has very beautifully, broken his SOP down into the thread, the impact, the hook, and the rest of the things. I'll just take you through this one by one. Okay. So this is, again, if you see, it's like a 2-page statement of purpose. So I want you to look at the length of the statement of purpose. A few universities require a SOP lesser than 1400 words, but then usually it is 1300 to 1400 words. Okay. So it's important to not write a very long statement of purposes, because it gets repetitive and redundant, and you don't want that. Okay. So Rajat basically explains, so Rajat did his dual degree from IIT Madras, and he was a topper in his class. Okay. So he had a very strong GPA, and he mentions it in his SOP that he was his department topper. Okay. So this is something that I'm talking about. If you have strong GPA, it's very important to highlight the strong GPA. Okay. So this is basically his first paragraph, where he talks about his research work directly. Okay. So like I said, no chronological order required. You can start with whatever field you think is suitable, and then you can proceed. Okay. So basically he starts his SOP by mentioning his research work, followed by how he got into IIT Madras for his undergrad. Okay. So IIT Madras is one of the most top coveted engineering schools in India, and that is why it's important to mention that. That is also a hook that you should mention in your SOP if you have such a hook. Okay. So this basically, he mentions the name of his professor, where he undertook a research project with this particular professor, and this particular professor also has given him a letter of recommendation. Okay. So you can see the common things in Dr. Raj and Dr. Rajat's statement of purpose, that this is the impact that his thread had. He mentions it very beautifully here, and then he mentions his book, his trends, basically, that he presented at the APS DFD conference in 2017, and was appreciated by a lot of people who attended the talk. Okay. So this is also his hook, and this is where he mentions that this is his first research quest, and it was extremely satisfying, and it took him a step closer in strengthening his decision of pursuing PhD. Okay. So and the next paragraph is where the hook and the thread connect. Okay. So basically he mentions that about his DART scholarship. So he went to Germany to do an internship there. He also mentions what he did during the internship, and then he mentions where his work was presented. Okay, so it's very important, if you have done some internships of this level, this research level, it's very important to mention that as well. Okay, and then the supporting cast. Okay, so he also mentioned a few industrial projects that he did, and like I said, he is also the academic topper in his class. Okay, so that also helped him a lot. And then he mentions that he has done 2 large-scale industrial projects, and he also mentions the name of the professor here. Okay, so this particular professor also gave him a very good letter of recommendation. And this is where your statement of purpose, your resume, and your letter of recommendation really start to tell the same story, and that is where they become credible. Okay, because the admissions committee is not just going to believe your statement of purpose. Now they're going to look at this, if this particular person has given a recommendation, and it also mentions the same thing that is mentioned in his in his SOP. Okay, so it's very important that everything is coherent and telling the same story. And here he also mentions, about a few of the work that he's done with a particular professor. He mentions the links also to the work that he's done. Okay, so that is again a very, very strong point. This is also, something that I was talking about when I was talking about mentioning your publications. Okay, so it's important, if you don't have any publications, we can immediately get you started with your research journey, and that is how you can have a research paper and a publication to mention. Okay, and then supporting cast at the end. So this is his last page where he mentions his supporting cast, where he pursued another industrial project, and then this led to an international patent filing for their design, which was highly appreciated. Okay, so there's this patent also that he wants to highlight in his SOP. So it's a very, very strong statement of purpose, if you look at it, if any admissions committee is looking at it. Okay, and then at the end he mentions that he has a cumulative GPA of 9.38, and then he has awarded the Institute Merit Prize also. This is also something that is a very, very strong point, and something that is something extremely to be extremely proud of, right? And then the pitch. So the final this final point in a statement of purpose is where, like I said, he mentions the research group where he would want to work. He has already researched about the research lab, about the particular professor, and this is where he makes the pitch of why this particular university is a very good fit for him, and why he is a very good fit for the university. Okay, so this is how two different statement of purposes, but still speaking the same thing. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. And then we will move on to the third the SOP of our third co-founder, as Dr. Sridhar. Okay, so this is basically represented in slides. So he has beautifully divided his statement of purpose into a simple introduction. So given that these three individuals are different people, have different thinking, and then they're completely different individuals, they are using different storytelling techniques. Okay, so Dr. Sridhar writes in his first paragraph of what he is pursuing at IIT Madras, and then what his field of interest lies in. Okay, so he basically wants to make it a point that his field of interest lies in the area of manufacturing. Okay, so, and this is where this in the second paragraph is where he transitions. Okay, so he transitions beautifully, mentioning that how his learning has been a part of his life. He was greatly interested in physics and mathematics, and that is why he opted for IIT Madras in mechanical engineering. And in his second year, he took an internship at Caterpillar Engineering Design, where he was also awarded with a job opportunity. So here he speaks about his industrial internship, which later got converted into a WorkX. Okay, so this is something that this is the flow of Dr. Sridhar's SOP, and this is how you can mold your statement of purposes in different ways. Okay, that is why I'm showing you these three successful statement of purposes. Okay, so this is again the fourth paragraph of his SOP, where he talks about his DART internship in Germany. So even Dr. Sridhar did a DART internship in Germany, where he talks about what work he was doing and with which professor. Okay, so in the fifth paragraph, he mentions in my final year what conferences he submitted to his paper. Okay, so he submitted a conference paper and presented a paper in the ninth international conference on machine vision held at Nice in France. Okay, so this is his hook in his SOP. And this is also a very very strong point that he beautifully explains. Okay, and then there's another journal publication. Okay, that is he mentions that a research paper based on this work has been submitted to the ASME Journal of Tribology. Okay, so which is currently under review. So I would like to stress upon this point that it's fine if your papers haven't been accepted or published yet. You can even mention that your papers are in review, or they are in preparation, or they've been submitted. Okay, all these 3 points are perfectly fine to mention in your statement of purpose. That is why I'm telling start working on your research profile from now. Start writing your research papers from now. It's completely okay if you don't receive any result from the reviewers by the time you submit your applications, but at least you have a publication section to talk about your statement of purpose, and that can contribute as a very good hook. Okay, so it's important to do that. And then he mentions in his conference too that he had presented and submitted a paper to the 24th International Congress on Sound and Vibration. So this is again his hook. And then he mentions about his master's thesis. So okay, so I'm currently working as a part of team for designing and building an orbital motion abrasive cutting machine. So you can see how he ties all of the things mentioned in his SOP to the manufacturing. Okay, so he wants to mention that he is passionate about manufacturing, and that is the thread of his SOP, that is his vision, which is binding his SOP together. Okay, so this is the last part of Sridhar's SOP, where I would like to go in reverse. So the last paragraph talks about what makes me a good fit. Okay, so basically he is pitching himself in the last paragraph, and then the second last paragraph, similar to Dr. Raj and Dr. Rajat's SOP, talk about which labs at MIT he would like to work with. Okay, so these some of the points in these three SOPs are very very common, and I want to stress upon those points, that researching on a particular professor or multiple professors and their research work and aligning it with your research work is very very important, and it's very important to mention that in your SOP. Okay, and then again last but not the least, he mentions his vision once again, that he wants to work what his vision is, where he wants to work. Basically he wants to work to solve complex problems in manufacturing that makes a long lasting impact on society. Okay, so you can see that this is a very very vision with a wide implication. Okay, and this is where he really made an impact and he got into MIT. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when I that different SOPs, but then again they have a lot of things in common. Okay, so how to begin writing your own SOP? Okay, so how do you start? So first you decide your vision. If you don't have a vision decided, think about it after attending this webinar. Think about what is your vision, and then write it down. Okay, and then second point is identify your hook. Okay, so I agree all of you must be having a lot of strengths in your profile, but if you don't have any publication section in your profile, it's very important to develop it. It can be developed through writing a research paper. Okay, and then identify the SOP and supporting elements. Okay, so this is the supporting cast, where you identify any internship or any work that you've done, any industrial work experience that you have. And then the fourth thing is preparing your pitch. Okay, so these are the 4 points that can be developed, and I just want to focus on the point that all of you must have seen a lot of publications, conferences, and patents in all of our three co-founders statement of purposes. But it's very, very important to know that if you don't have any of these in your profile, you still have time to build your research profile. Okay, so we are in, let's say the end of May, and we can write and submit a research paper in another 3 or 4 months. Okay, so you will have a publication section to mention in your SOP. Okay, so this is how you can do that. Show industry experience, start working with any professor, and even get in touch with us. Okay, even we can help you to write a research paper and publish your research paper in a very good journal. Okay, so it's very important to get either started with a review paper or a research paper at least. And then identifying the supporting elements, like at any advanced level courses that you need to take up. So these courses also, if they are relevant to the field of study that you're applying to, it's very important to get started with doing those courses. Okay, and then in the last paragraphs, it's important to make your pitch. Okay, so it's important to make a detailed list of universities first, and like I said, very, very important to modify that pitch according to the university that you've selected. Okay, so the story should remain the same, but then it should be presented in different ways. Okay, so some of the SOPs, do's and don'ts that I want to cover. So please avoid cheesy stuff. Okay, so do not try to write any quotes or any famous lines any scientist has said, or don't try to be cheesy, because that's just going to waste space in your SOP, and the admissions committee are not really interested in getting to know who inspired you. They're more interested in getting to know you. Okay, so and it's very important that if you don't have any professional mentorship to guide you, get your SOP reviewed from only people who have been through the process. Okay, so maybe your seniors, if you don't have any professional guidance, but don't get it reviewed from random people. Okay, and then it may seem at times that an your SOP and your resume are they're repetitive and they're telling the same thing, but it's fine. It's completely okay, because that is what you are and that is what you're trying to project. Okay, so even if it seems redundant a bit, it's completely fine. And then last but not the least, I am stressing on this point a lot, is that spend quality time on your statement of purpose. Okay, start drafting your statement of purpose from now itself. Okay, and yes, very, very important, don't use any writing tools or chat GPT, because they have detectors in their system these days, and if they detect use of any writing tools or chat GPT, then you will get rejected most probably. So refrain from doing that. And then some final thoughts. Okay, I just want to recap that it's very important to tell your story. It's important to be very innovative and very very fresh, and not really be redundant, and not just I did this, I did that, this is this, this is that. Not be very factual, but then tell a very good story around it, build an emotion and passion around it. Okay, and then showcase your strengths and convert your weakness into strengths. Okay, and then we're coming to the last. This is how we can help you to draft a very strong application by enrolling you in the long-term mentorship program. So we can help you to build your research profile, and this can serve as a very good hook in your statement of purpose. Okay, so even if you don't have paper published, we can get you started with writing and submitting a very good review paper or a very good research paper. And then we will also help you to draft your statement of purpose, your resume, and 3 letters of recommendation, along with shortlisting of universities based on feasibility check on your profile, and then portfolio website building as well. Okay, so the duration of the phase 1 of the long-term mentorship program is basically 3 to 4 months. And in this phase, we are trying to getting you to write your review paper, and getting it submitted to a very good journal. Okay, so you are having a publication section to your profile, and you are basically having a first author paper added to your publication. Okay, so that makes a huge difference, right? And just for you to know that LTM 2025 is being directly directly mentored by our co-founders. So you can, get in touch directly with them. You can even access their SOPs. We can even send you their SOPs across. You can have a detailed look at them, and you can even, learn a lot from them. You can ask them questions, and you can learn from their experiences, right? So this is the LTM phase 2, where you'll work on perfecting the application, and basically you will work on university shortlisting and all the things that I just mentioned right now. Okay, so the phase 1 will take 3 to 4 months, and the phase 2 will take 2 months. So approximately the whole long-term mentorship program will take approximately 6 months to finish. And considering we are in the end of May, now would be the perfect time to start with the long-term mentorship program. Okay, because it will take at least 6 months to build your application, because the deadlines are in December. Okay, so if you're applying to grad schools for fall of 2026, you should get enrolled right now, right? And then this is the research assessment tool that we will be sending you across once you've enrolled in our program. This is basically to know, how far along you are in your research journey. If you've done any kind of project, how well versed you are with research, right? This is just some of the testimonials that I want to showcase, because we have had a very strong 2023 and 24, and we currently received an admit from student who got into Princeton and Stanford also. So Princeton is very, very difficult to get into, but there was this student who got into Princeton as well, and we had mentored him along the way. Okay, so we are very proud of all the students who have achieved admits from very good universities, and most of them have received good fundings from their PhDs. Okay, so it's very, very important to know that you can get good funding from the PhD programs also, if you have a very, very good profile, and to mention a very good statement of purpose. Okay, so these are just some of the messages that we've been receiving, and I've just added them in the slides, because we're very proud of all of these feats that our students have achieved, and we have sent the students out to these universities. Now these are a very few universities, but then there are a lot more. Okay, so these are again a few testimonials that we've received, and then we will help you with the following. So we will help you to identify good and easy problem statements. We will teach you how to write papers, and then we will help you to set a very realistic timeline, and then we will even help you to figure out in which journals you should submit your papers. Okay, so basically the hook in your statement of purpose is something which will make your resume look from the resume on the left to the resume on the right. Okay, so, this is about the long-term mentorship program, and I just want to quickly mention the SciML bootcamp. So, if anybody wants to, have and add an experience in the field of machine learning into their profile, we have the world's first scientific machine learning bootcamp. That we've introduced last year, and it's been very successful. We've had many papers submitted and accepted into very, very good conferences. So we have these 4 programs in the SciML bootcamp, and basically this bootcamp is targeted for students who want to add an experience of machine learning into their profile of core sciences as well as other fields, and also for students who want to completely transition to the field of machine learning. Okay, so we have plans like the student plan, community plan, and the researcher plan, and the industry professional plan. So student plan and community plan basically take you through the pre-recorded videos of the basics of machine learning. So they give you an access to the pre-recorded lectures, homework assignments, and code files. And then we have the researcher plan and the industry professional plan, where in addition to the student plan and community plan, we are also helping you write a research paper in your field of domain and the field of machine learning, and submit it to a very good conference. Okay, so this year and now we are targeting the NeurIPS conference that has a deadline of September. And I just want to mention at this point that we have now collaborated with Julia Hub, and students who will be completing this particular scientific machine learning bootcamp will also receive a certification from Julia Hub. Okay, so this certification will open doors to a lot of industries who want for students who want to work, and also it can be a hook also in your statement of purpose for those of you applying to graduate schools. Okay, so this is something that I wanted to tell you about, of how we can help you uh, in your journey in applying to graduate schools as well, and to transition to machine learning as well. Okay, so if you're interested in the scientific machine learning bootcamp or the long term mentorship program, you can send an email to us at hello@flyvidesh.com, or you can book an online session with me, where you will be provided a basic consultation on your profile, and how we can help you to build a stellar profile which will get you into top universities. Okay, so we are mentioning we are giving you the link where you can book the call with me in the chat. So if you are interested, you can go in top mate and then book a call with me. Okay, so we are, it's 8 p.m., we are at the end, but we are not left with any time. But I'm stopping to share my screen, and we also have Dr. Raj and Dr. Rajat, our co-founders, with us. And if they would like to say something, I know we are almost at the end of time. I'll just stop sharing my screen. Over to you, Dr. Raj and Dr. Rajat.
Yeah, so let me take some questions in the chat. So first question is, can you help for mentorship support for postdoc applications and faculty positions? So we have not done that so far. Most of the guidance is
Yeah,
with
should do.
and master's applications. Also, there are two main programs. First is the long-term mentorship program, and second is the scientific machine learning, through which we usually provide guidance to students. Last thing which I wanted to mention is importance of research profile. So although writing SOP is very crucial, what you write in the SOP depends on how strong your research profile is. So I learned that very late, but if you have time to build your profile, you should really focus on getting publications. And research is extremely useful and it pays off in the long run. I think we are at the end of time now. So we'll be uploading the recording for all of you in case you missed something. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll be conducting more such webinars in the future. Thanks everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone. All the best.
Bye.
Bye.